Good day, folks. Welcome to today's Partner Spotlight, brought to you by XenTegra. Today, we're going to bring in today's webinar a great partner of ours, Haiku, and we're going to go a little bit into, or not a little bit, we'll go a little bit deeper into Haiku's R-Graph solution and really how that solution can be brought to your organization to really map out and take a look at your SaaS landscape. So first of all, let's talk about XenTegra. And so XenTegra is a partner in the partner community that has a very exciting history. And where we started was with our great CEO, Andy Whiteside. And Andy Whiteside came to us from, or started XenTegra coming out of Citrix. And Andy understood and saw a gap in the partner community, the VAR community. And really what that was just getting a little more intimate with our customer community and really going beyond just being a value-added partner, really being an added value partner to becoming strategic with our community, with our folks, and really going all the way down into providing consulting services, managed services, on all things in the end-user compute ecosystem, come from Citrix, Microsoft, VMware, what have you, but really then going in deeper into things like storage, networking, cloud, and partnering with our customers and really building that community out for our customers and staying that whole way. And so that's really who we are. And that is the foundation of our company, which is really to build that community within our customer base and really nurture that community. So next, a little bit about me. I'm Ray Anderson. I'm on the solutions architecture team here at XenTegra. Native of the San Francisco Bay Area, been in IT in various capacities from desktop support all the way up into IT management, spanning over 25 years. My passion in my career has been really partnering with my customers, really engaging my customers, teaching my customers, working with my customers to build out solutions that address needs and requirements that they currently have or initiatives that they see coming down the road for their organization. Now, before we start today's partner series webinar, what I'd like to do is I'd really like to hang out there a really exciting thing that XenTegra does, or event that we do every year for our customers. And that's what we call our work has no boundaries. This year is very exciting. It's one of a kind, first of its kind for us and our customers, in that we are going to draw winners from from this event to join us in Hawaii. All-inclusive paid event for our customer, the winner of this event, this vacation, I'll call it. So I'll leave this up here for about 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Please take the time to note the address, and we'll actually provide it. We've provided it in the chat of this webinar as well. So go out to the chat, you look at the URL, bring the URL up, browse the page, enter yourself into this wonderful event, and hopefully we'll see you at Hawaii. So with that, I want to start out with a couple of items to think about, some things to think about in today's webinar. Really, let's take a look at really what do we believe our SaaS landscape to be at our organization? Do we fully understand how many SaaS apps our organization has? If we do understand that, right, are we confident that our organization has the proper protections in place to protect our data, right? Do we understand our responsibilities, our organization's responsibility versus the SaaS provider's responsibilities in the different protection controls in place? Do we have a clear understanding of that? How can my organization or your organization go forward in identifying that and taking the proper steps? And really, most importantly, where do I start? Where do we start? And so with that today, I'm going to hand it over to my great counterpart over at Haiku, Andy Fernandez, wonderful gentleman. And I'll hand it over to you, Andy, and let's get into it, shall we?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ray. Let me confirm that I can. Oh, I think I can start changing stuff around. Let's see. Yes, I do. Okay, perfect. Let me just go back. So one of the things that I want to mention, and thank you everybody. My name is Andy Fernandez. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Haiku. Ray, before we get started, how do I get in on this Hawaii thing? I've been, out of all the countries I've been to, Ray, Hawaii is still not there. So I'm jealous of the audience. They get to go.
Whoa,
Uh,
whoa, whoa. We lost Hawaii? Go to link.
I
Let's
know.
talk about it later. Let's talk about it later. Let's see how we can both get
Absolutely.
in there
Yeah,
on
let's
that
see how we
action
can
as well.
let's see how we can do this because that's on my bucket list too. I'd love to see you customers there. But I want to get started today with a challenge for everybody in the audience. And I just want to ask a very simple question. It looks like a straightforward question, but this is based on a lot of conversations. Ray and I have talked about this even at XenTegra, at Haiku, and the types of SaaS applications that we use. But I want to ask the audience, I want you to take some time to think about this and put it on the chat. And make sure that on the Q&A or on the chat that you add your guess to this. And what I want to get into first is, can you tell me how many SaaS applications do you think your organization has, especially a mid-sized organization? So put on your hat that you are a CIO or a CTO at a mid-sized organization. What I mean by that is somebody with just 1,000 employees, not a massive enterprise, but a pretty large, mature company, 1,000 employees. How many SaaS applications do you think the average mid-sized organization is using today? That's question number one. Please put that on the Q&A or on the chat. But the bonus I have for you is, what percentage of those applications were actually paid for outside of IT? Those are critical questions. It's going to base the foundation of what we talk about today, but I would love to hear your best guess. While you're thinking and while you're formulating your answer and your best guess, I want to talk a little bit about Haiku right before we get into really showing you the level of discovery that we can help you with. But a little bit about Haiku. We come from the world of protecting mission critical applications. And those mission critical applications used to be on-prem, things like Nutanix, VMware, file shares. But what we noticed was that our customers were also rapidly adopting cloud services. They were not only lifting and shifting, but they're actually modernizing their applications. And then we also saw an absolute explosion of SaaS applications. What does that actually mean? Well, 10 years ago, everything was in a castle. Ray probably remembers those days fondly, especially in the Citrix days, where you had a hypervisor, you had virtual infrastructure, maybe some physical servers as well, but it was all in your data center. You can go and you can actually visualize and see what was the capacity, what were the applications, what does the estate look like. But if you look at today's world, data is everywhere. It's on-prem as well, but it's also in cloud. It's also in different SaaS application. It's completely siloed. So at Haiku, our goal and what we actually delivered is the first and only data protection platform that could scale to those needs, that could scale to not only your on-prem infrastructure, your cloud infrastructure, but also all of the services, the PaaS, the SaaS, the DBaaS that exists out there. So the focus for us is not really focusing on just one workload, it's all of them. It's protecting your data anywhere that's protected everywhere. We have way over 3,600 customers now, even massive organizations like Nutanix and Broadcom who trust us with their mission critical data. But we work with key partners like XenTegra to make sure that we not only deliver an excellent solution, an excellent platform, but also partners that can help you maximize it the most as well. And we have an industry-leading customer support. We have an NPS of over 90, which is unheard of in the industry as well. Now, with that, let's get to the guesses. I want to take a quick look to see, and I see Philip here says 30 SaaS apps and 15 were paid by other departments. That guess of 15, Philip, from a percentage perspective, is not so far off, but it's actually pretty shocking. So I'm actually going to review a couple, but I want to give you guys an anecdote.
I want
At
to
like,
say real
oh,
quick
go ahead.
to Andy, if I may, that
Yeah.
really resonated with me, your bonus question. coming from IT, it was very surprising from time to time to know how many different business units were going out and entertaining their own solutions. And IT discovered it, we hear shadow IT, and IT to discover it either through an audit or what I termed as an innocent slip over your shoelaces moment. Right. And that can be very, very attention getting and actually frightening sometimes.
No, absolutely. That's you're 100% correct. That's actually one of the scariest things is that anyone with a credit card can even provision cloud infrastructure. You have a credit card, you have the funds, even if it's a company card, you can go and get access to cloud. You can go and buy a Notion or a Salesforce or an Asana or a Jira. You can go and do that. So the challenge here now is a sprawl challenge. And we have conversations all of the time with our CISOs. So we ask them, how many SaaS applications do you think you have? And well, they say, well, I know that for a fact we're using M365 and Salesforce, right? The big three. They can remember those because they probably paid a lot of money for them. But when we actually do some digging, we ask some probing questions, we talk to the security team, we find something shocking. And when you look at the Xylo SaaS Management Index, they interviewed over 10,000 companies. And what they found was incredibly astonishing to see the total volume of SaaS applications that a mid-sized company has. And take a look. The average mid-sized organization has 217 SaaS apps. Right, that's 217 SaaS apps in a world that just 10 years ago, they were highly virtualized environments and a couple of physical, but they had no cloud, no SaaS. Now there are over 200 SaaS silos. So this is
I
what
could
happens
see
every
I
time.
could see how that's really taken off, Andy, right? In the last few years, right? More and more providers are going in that SaaS direction and providing a lot of maturity in the SaaS applications that they provide. And so why not jump on that wagon, as I'll call it, and really subscribe to those SaaS applications. Like you'd mentioned, I got a credit card, I've got an expense account, right, with my company as a business unit manager. I can freely go out and subscribe to those various SaaS applications.
With no procurement needed or required at some
Absolutely.
point. And that's what makes it scary. But and I'll give you a little anecdote too. Haiku, we're nearly 400 employees. We ourselves have 70 SaaS apps, and that's just SaaS apps. That's not counting cloud services. So it does give you some validation that these numbers are valid, and they're very terrifying, especially when you get into the enterprise space as well. But here comes the kicker. Now that's just the total volume, right? 217 SaaS apps. So what about how much of that is actually within the purview of IT? And once again, what we find when we have conversations with CISOs is they say, look, the majority of our critical applications, yeah, there's some shadow. Maybe somebody's using a Notion page with their credit card or smart sheets or something like that. But all of our critical applications, they're managed and procured and paid for by IT. But that's also busted. In that same survey, with that same sample size of 10,000, they found that IT controls 27% of SaaS spend and manage 23% of it. Think of that. Nearly only a third of the applications that are critical, that are being used in an organization, are actually controlled for and paid for by IT. So what we're looking at here is a little bit of a moment of reckoning in the industry where organizations have vastly underestimated how many SaaS apps they have, first of all, and then who's actually controlling and managing those SaaS apps. But why does that matter? Why does that matter? Well, it's because of the shared responsibility model. And what I mean by this is when people move to SaaS, they think, oh, well, it's a SaaS. I just pay a monthly service and they do everything for me. They take care of security, they take care of data protection. But the reality is much different. So, for example, let's say Ray is going to a concert and he wants to make sure he doesn't get a ticket and he parks his car in the garage. Ray is making sure that he has access to the garage, that the lights are on, that he can get out safely, and Ray leaves his car there. Now, what if Ray leaves his window open and somebody steals
Hmm.
his laptop? What if somebody doesn't like Ray for some reason because they couldn't go to Hawaii and they scratch his car? Or maybe somebody followed Ray and took his car. Well, where does the responsibility actually lie? Well, the garage is only responsible for making sure that Ray can park there. But his car, the contents inside of his car are Ray's problem. And the garage will take no liability. They're not responsible for anything that happens. The same thing happens to SaaS data. If somebody deletes it, misconfigures it, even if there's a direct attack on the user, the vendor, aka the Atlassians of the world, the Oktas, the DocuSigns, AWS, the Salesforce, they're not responsible. They're responsible for the system, not the tenant. So you have organizations who suddenly have hundreds of SaaS applications. And maybe in your case, in your organizations, it's only a couple dozen, but you're responsible for all of them and to recover the data if something happens, whether it's an accident or whether it's something malicious like an attack. This starts to show you a little bit of the apocalyptic moment that we have within IT, especially in the commercial side, where organizations do not realize the total amount of applications that they have. And just to give you a little bit more evidence, let's grab three of the larger SaaS applications. They're all going to use a variation of the same image and the same language. But what it's going to tell you is, look, we're responsible for the system, AKA we need to keep the garage open. We need to have the lights of the garage on. But when it comes to your data, your security policies, your compliance, your users, your configurations, it's on you to protect them. It's on you to recover. And they all show that customer level responsibility. So what does this mean? Well, it means that we have to actually truly think about how we go and start protecting our SaaS estate and actually give ourselves an opportunity to recover when something happens in that scenario as well. And here's some of the things to think about. And Ray, you have so many anecdotes with customers around all three of these categories as well. But the first one that we see is just going to be Murphy's Law. It's operational data loss. Somebody accidentally deleting something, somebody overwriting something, a bug, version control issues, corruptions, and then hopefully not in your organization, a rogue administrator deleting something. Out of the data loss incidents in the world of IT and the world of SaaS, this is number one. This is something that happens every single day. But
And
although
unfortunately, a lot of folks learn this at the last minute when the action has already happened. And then they look back at that SaaS provider and have that head scratching moment, right? So it's great that we bring that to the surface.
no, absolutely. And I think that just applies to everything in life, right? Hindsight's 2020, and then people don't realize that they had to go and protect that data and they have to recover it themselves. Now those are the misconfigurations and mistakes. These things happen every single day. Now, although more infrequent, but way more disastrous, is actually outages, but specifically cyber attacks. And outages, the SaaS has to help you with an outage. They're responsible for maintaining the system. But a cyber attack is a little trickier because there could be a supply chain attack on the SaaS itself or a direct attack on the end user. What does that mean? Well, do you have a copy of your data that you can recover from in case there's an event, in case there's an encryption? Where's that data hosted? Is it in the SaaS provider or do you have something outside? These are things to really think about. And the last one that I'll mention though is the one that gets overlooked the most, but usually has the largest financial consequences. It's compliance, data retention, and governance. If you were in a healthcare organization, in financial services, and energy space, public sector, you had data retention requirements on-prem for those applications that you had in your data center. Although you're using a SaaS, you still have data retention requirements. You still have residency governance requirements. Are you meeting those? Do you have a constant inventory of how you're meeting those requirements as well, especially from a data retention perspective? Ray, we have customers all the time who have a minimum of 7 years, but they're using SaaS applications that are deleting the data after 90 days. There's no copy. So if there's an audit, they would fail that audit. So these are just some of the things to think about when it comes to what is your risk profile within the world of SaaS applications. And something that I didn't mention before, but that's critical in the world of cyber attacks is SSO providers have also moved to a SaaS. Why does that actually matter? Well, what's the keys to the kingdom here, Ray? For you as an organization, if you were a hacker, what organization or what type of application security would you go after, right? It would be identity access manager.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go after the keys. Locate the key. Try really hard to locate the keys. Yep.
If you can breach access, if you can make yourself a super admin, you now have the ability to go after the entire organization. So here are things that we highly, highly recommend. And this is objective. This is based on our learnings, helping Fortune 500 companies protect their data. The first one is you can't protect what you don't know exists. So you have to go and map out all of your SaaS applications, expose those protection gaps and understand what kind of a problem are you actually dealing with. And then two is you have to do everything that you can to have ransomware proof backups. not only of all of the critical SaaS applications, but of your SSO provider as well, whether that's Okta, Entra ID, Azure Active Directory, however it's named today, Ping ID Duo. You have to make sure you have copies of that you can restore from in case something does happen. So it's about making sure that the keys to the kingdom are protected, and then the rest of the SaaS estate is accounted for and protected as well. Now, here's a quick checklist, and we'll send you this checklist at the end of the email before we get into the demo of how we solve for this. But step one is you have to map out your risk. You have to understand how many SaaS applications your organization is using. You need, whether it's written down or some form of audit, you need to have an understanding of how many SaaS applications you're using, but also how many cloud services are you using. And the reason I want to talk about cloud services is, and Ray knows as well, on-prem, you had to worry about your disk, your VMs, and your storage. Your networking, all of that was fine. But when you're using cloud services, specifically, let's talk about AWS. You're using things like identity access management, KMS. You're using parameter store, all these other different services that are critical to security. They all hold incredibly important configuration. What if somebody deletes a rotation key in KMS or your roles in IAM? Your application goes down. So it's not just like your departmental SaaS like DocuSign that you have to account for. It's also the microservices within the cloud that are all their own little estates now. You have to have an accounting of that. You have to double click, not just, hey, we're using AWS, but what actually are you using within AWS? What are the use cases? What are the services? Then you have to understand by department what you're using. You can't just have a single massive list of sources and not understand who's responsible, who paid for it, who's protecting it. And most importantly, you have to identify the apps that do not have native protection. And for the edge cases of shadow IT, you have to do everything humanly possible to make sure that you have them under the SSO umbrella. Otherwise, then there's nothing anyone can do for your organization if people are simply logging on with personal emails and adding company-specific PII and IP to that as well, which unfortunately, even in large organizations, still happens to this day. Because we talked about first, you need to know the map. Where do I have to go to start protecting my applications? What am I using? What's important to my organization? Two is immediately go and protect your SSO data, especially if it's running as a SaaS application. At minimum, you need daily backups of your configurations. What does that configuration actually mean? Well, it's the roles, your access policy, your administrator rules, all of these different configurations that could be toyed around with. You need to have a safe copy that you can recover from. And being able to recover specific roles, specific access policies will give you the ability to recover safely from a breach. You have to make sure that passwords are reset when that restore operations happens. There's so many more things in this checklist that I will dive into maybe in another session, but we'll send you the checklist as well, because we highly recommend that even if you never use Haiku, even if you don't have a conversation with Haiku, it's critical that you follow these rules as well. But now we really wanted to spend most of the time today talking about the problem, because it's a problem that doesn't get a lot of attention. It will. It's going to become the topic of conversation, but it's something that needs to be understood because, like Ray mentioned, too many people find out until it's too late. And that's the biggest challenge, right, Ray?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, what we'll do now is actually want to show you a free service that XenTegra is offering via Haiku. And Ray himself is already a champion and fully enabled on this and can show you how your organization is able to do this. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you how, as long as you're an Okta or an Azure Active Directory user, you have access to a free service after this webinar where you can start exposing and mapping out your SaaS applications. Let me share my screen. Ray, can you just confirm when you see my screen?
See your screen.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to show you something that you're going to simply register for. You're going to be able to register via a landing page that we're offering you a link to at the end of the session. Once you do so, you are going to sign into your Haiku account. Something that I want to mention is Haiku is a one-stop shop. It's a full service that allows you to discover and protect all of your critical data. So I'm going to show you what's available to you for free today. The moment you register, the first thing that you're going to see is a prompt to add your Okta or Azure AD. What this means is you're adding an API token. You're adding an API token to this, and you're going to automatically discover all of the sources inside of your Okta directory. But there's so much more that we do with that information. All of this is fully encrypted, and you have the ability to immediately delete the API token at all time, but this is an environment under your control. Now, let's get into what actually happens when you add Okta or Azure AD API tokens. What is the actual outcome here? Let me show you in a fully expanded mode. And I'm going to show you first how we show you the problem, and then I'll show you the solution as well. What you're seeing here is actually a full assessment of Haiku. This is running in our production environment, and this is Haiku, the company. These yellow nodes are our departments. So when you sign in with Okta or with AD, we're not only exposing all of the sources that belong to that directory, but actually associating them to different departments within your organization, and then allowing you to expose what are the SaaS applications that belong to each one. So let's expose sales and marketing real quick. Let's also go after and make sure that we show engineering. Let's even include our sandbox environment, because people don't forget, you have to protect that as well. And then let's expose what's going on with DevOps. And then let's go for the rest of the departments as well. This looks insane, right? It's a bit of a spaghetti monster, right, Ray?
This is crazy.
Now, Ray, this is the SaaS estate of a company with under 400 employees, right? Imagine a larger company than that. And we've seen organizations even with 100, 150 employees that already have a massive SaaS and cloud footprint. Now, what this does, and this is free, it exposes the total amount of sources that you need to go and protect. But what you're able to do as well is actually start triaging and really understanding your risk profile. Once again, you still have your company, you have the departments within your company, but this is more in a March Madness mode for you to really scroll down and understand what are you using. But the most powerful thing about this view and what Haiku is able to do is we even expose the specific SaaS applications by their backup and recovery capabilities. So that when you go and you take a look at, oh, wow, we use Zendesk a lot at the organization. Zendesk is running as a SaaS. If somebody deletes all of our support tickets, we have no way to recover that. We have no way to automate backups. We have no way to store this data outside of Zendesk. This means that we're not protected, and we have to immediately go and protect something like Zendesk. But this applies to M365, Google Workspace, your Jira, your Confluence, your Terraform, your GitHub, all of these things that are amazing still run under SaaS environments as well. Now, the point here is it's a free service, no strings attached, that Ray is fully equipped to show you how to enable, that you can expose this problem and immediately start triaging. Now, what do you do after? What if you say, okay, well, I need to go and I need to protect this information. I need to go and make sure that my SaaS applications are completely protected. Well, we have a marketplace. And that marketplace, with the account that you open with your Haiku account, you have 14-day free access to go and protect anything that you like. We have 50 integrations. And Ray, I wanted to give you guys a preview on this call, but as of later this month, we're also going to be releasing another set of new SaaS applications. GitHub, Monday.com, DocuSign, critical SaaS applications within DevOps and other departments as well. But you're able to go here and protect so many different SaaS applications and cloud services. But let's focus on Okta, right? Because we talked about securing your SSO providers with immutable backups. All you need to do is you can go in, once again, add the API token, and Haiku is going to automatically discover all of the services that belong there in the instance. And what do? Well, the first thing you do is assign a backup policy. And with Haiku, we have prepackaged backup policies where you can go ahead and say, look, I want to back up my Okta configurations every day, or I'd like to do it every hour because it's extremely important to my organization. You can also go ahead and build your own and define your backup frequency. Like, hey, I would love to do backups every hour, or I would like a 1-year retention period, especially as a healthcare, financial services, public sector, you probably have retention periods of years. You can go in there and put like a 6-month or any type of retention periods, virtually unlimited. The most important piece here, though, we don't store your backups. What's the point of actually now putting your data into somebody else's control? With Haiku, we use your underlying storage, your S3 buckets, your Google Cloud Storage, or even S3 compatible storage like Wasabi. So all of your backups of your cloud, of your SaaS applications are going to your storage. What does this actually mean? Well, remember the 3-2-1 rule, that thing that we used to do on-prem, right? 3 copies, 2 media types, 1 off-site. That's still the fundamentals. That's still important. And if your backups or you're just simply keeping your data in another account inside of your SaaS, you're not following the 3-2-1 rule. And the auditor as well won't believe you are. But with Haiku, you have a full offsite backup in case there's an outage, in case there's a cyber attack, in case there's an audit. You have the ability to host all of your data in your control. But the most important thing I want to talk about here is recovery. Ray and I can go ahead and script a backup if we wanted to ourselves to S3. We can build that within an hour. That's easy. Recovery, Ray and I probably wouldn't be able to do for a very, very long time just ourselves. That's the hard part, being able to recover specific workloads. So let's grab Okta again as that example. Now, you're doing a full backup. You're getting all of this data from Okta. With Haiku, you're able to go and restore very, very specific granular data. Things like admin roles. What if somebody breaches Okta and turns themselves into a super administrator? And then they want to go on an encryption party. Well, when you know something's going on, you can simply go and restore your Okta configurations to a safe point in time from an immutable backup, and then all passwords are reset. That's just one use case. Well, let's grab something like Jira. One of your developers deletes one of the most important projects in the company. What do? If you delete a project and you can't get it back, you're probably not meeting that release cycle. So the whole point here is granular recovery across everything that you see. But here's where we close the loop on the story. Our graph initially was just to show you your total exposure. But with Haiku, once you actually start protecting things with our graph, you now will have a visual management plane of all of your SaaS services and cloud services. So that once you assign a backup policy, you have a full view of your entire organization. You know, out of all of your policies in the company, are there any emergencies? Are there any failed restores? Are there any failed backup policies? At the company level, at the department level, and then at the user SaaS source level as well. It's about giving you one point in time or one space to be able to understand your SaaS risk profile as well. So with that, Ray, I'm going to pause for questions. I know that we want to make sure everybody sees and gets access to the registration page, but this is a free service that we're doing simply because we know it's the right thing to do and that it's something that organizations need dearly. So if Ray is going to pull up the registration link, and with XenTegra, you will be able to register for this, get access to your own Haiku account, and immediately unlock rGraph. There are no strings attached here. You are able to use rGraph in perpetuity. It is yours to use. If you're interested in actually protecting these things, then you can work with the XenTegra team to start protecting your critical SaaS applications today. Now let's make sure that we get that link. I will also put it on the chat for everybody.
Can you see my screen, Andy?
Not yet.
Okay. Are you still sharing?
Go ahead. No, not anymore.
All right. Let's get back in here.
And in the meantime, on the webinar chat, I have just added the link. So you can go yourself, register there, open a Haiku account with XenTegra. Within 20 minutes, you will have a fully provisioned Haiku account and you're ready to turn on rGraph. And I highly recommend you ask Ray. He's a pro at this. He knows about it as much as Haiku or engineers does at this point now. So this is something that if you register for this link, you will have complete access to. Now, while you have access here, and I've also put it on the chat, I want to pause and address any questions or comments from the audience. And Ray, if there's any comments that you had as well.
Yeah, I had one question. You know, we're talking about, you know, all of the, you know, wonderful things that rGraph can do. Hearing more about, you know, the cyber insurance. You know, and so really, what would this be a valuable tool for my organization, you know, to provide to any cyber insurance entity that I do business with or get coverage with? You know, what does that look like? You know, are you starting to see more customers, you know, approach their cyber insurance folks with something like rGraph?
Yeah, one of the things that we realized was how much insurance premiums had raised in the last couple of years just because of the success of cyber attacks, right? We know that there's a increase in volume and severity of these attacks, and even backup infrastructure is being targeted as well. So cyber insurance has
Mhm.
really raised, and they've matured their expectations. They've matured their requirements. And it's not just about, hey, do you have a copy of this somewhere? But hey, do you have an encrypted copy? Do you have an immutable copy off-site? Are you regularly testing? There's so many more double-click questions than there were 5 years ago that the insurance organizations are expecting way more. And by auditing yourself, getting this free SaaS discovery, by addressing all of these and even going through additional ransomware assessments, you're a better chance of lowering those premiums as well. And frankly, we should be driving even more conversations with these providers to really build a standard of practice around what does the right backup infrastructure look like? What does the right recovery and testing mechanism look like? And give folks who meet that a lower premium as well.
I really like this too, because it makes me think about when I was working in IT and financial. Right, we would have various internal auditors, external auditors, FDIC, what have you, come in, those entities, and they really wanted to look at reports. They wanted to look at how you're protecting your organization, retention policies in place. Were you keeping up with those retention policies and the regulations? And so really I could see how our graph could come in and really help to solidify best practices or what I should be doing as a financial institution.
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to emphasize here too is we're not a cybersecurity company. We're helping and delivering value in a very specific segment of the NIST framework around cyber resilience and being able to recover when an attack happens. This is an insurance policy in itself to know that if or when something does happen, you have the ability to recover from a safe point in time. But just because you have this does not mean that there should not be a continued focus, a continued security posture on the prevention side. It's always better to stop something before it happens than to have to recover, but it's best when you have both in place as a true resilient company. 20 years ago, the focus was on prevention, right? Right. Well, it was make sure the
Mhm.
networking infrastructure, firewall. There's so many security companies out there, and there still are. But we also are starting to see a much more mature, a much more advanced culprit, and that requires having a backup option, having, pun intended, the ability to recover data in case something does happen. So although we're a data protection company, we always still recommend to follow best practices on the prevention side of the house too.
So with that wonderful webinar that we had today, folks, my call to action for everybody that attended today is go out, go to the link, sign up for your Haiku R graph demo, right? And let XenTegra team come in, let me and my team come in, and we can help you to get exposure to your SaaS landscape, help you to gain a better opportunity or a visibility into that, and then take appropriate actions if needed. With that, I want to thank everybody for their time today. I know we're closing out the week. Hopefully everybody has had a wonderful week and is looking forward to the weekend, and we're coming into the holiday season. So I want to say from XenTegra, myself, as well as Andy and Haiku, happy holidays, everybody. And thank you for your time today. Anything,
Happy
Andy?
holidays. No, that's it. I wanted to thank you, Ray, for the opportunity to speak to the folks at XenTegra and your customers. We thank you all. We love the partnership, and I hope everybody has a great holiday.
Absolutely. With that, we'll end today's session and have a wonderful weekend, folks.
Take care, everyone. Bye.